sometimes writing functions, the actual content of that one function can get a little bit complicated. Okay, and now if it's not possible in this example to be able to extract this code elsewhere, and you need to keep all of this functionality within inside of this one function, the business logic and any encoding or download request, if you have to keep it all inside one function and export it as one function, then you're going to need to try and organize that one data so it's clean and it's single responsibility, etc., etc. And we can use nested functions for this. Now, in my opinion, there are 100 different better ways to do it than this, but just for the sake of highlighting how and what nested functions are, we're going to use this example. So we have a function here that wants to download user data, download user data for this one username, all right? And it's going to return an any type, an optional any type, all right? And we're going to assume that all of the requests here are done synchronously, okay? We're not going to talk about that. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to get the API request URL for this one user. So let's start extracting this information. So first of all, we need to build we'll say HTTP is my API.com/API, and I don't know, then the username, and then data, or let's just say accounts here. Right, so this is then the URL. Now, this could be a lot more difficult to do. You might have to extract things out from it. So we could just here say function get user data URL for, and just say for name. Let's just keep it simple, all right? And we say here, and then we can basically add this to this one function and just put name in here instead. And so now we can say get user data for then username here, all right? And we could possibly then just remove that and then have this here, and so on. So this is now this function could be a lot more complicated, a lot more complex, all right? But all we've said is this function is going to handle the passing of a username into the URL that we need to send to the API, right, in order to make the request. So now we have the URL, and now we want to actually make the request, all right? And for the URL, and we're just going to say it's a normal string still, and this is what is then going to give back, let's just say it's a tuple of then status code is int, and then response is then going to be of type any, all right? So we return here a status code of 200 and response type of any. We're just going to do then like the body here for the time being. So this is all we're going to return, and we can get rid of the return keyword because we've only got one expression on it. You would have a lot more on it. Okay, I'm trying to skip over the implementation here, but this is you doing the HTTP request in there, and this is the information that you've got back from it, and this is your status code. So you're making the request. And so now we get the response, and we say then, make request with the URL, and we now have this. So we've achieved this next second task. Okay. Now we want to check the response. So if response dot and let's response dot status code is equal to 200, then you're going to return. And return then the user. Sorry, I'm going to return the response as well. All right. And so we've done check the response here and pass response data. Okay, so let's just say if this is not equal to 200, then you're going to return nil. All right, return user data. Here, and we'll set this shortly. So user data is what we're going to return there. So next thing we've got to do is pass it. So this could be another function is then decode user data, right? And then here's data, and then any, and this is going to return then an actual any. This is going to be the codable. This is going to be the actual data model. This is going to be the actual thing that you're going to use, all right? And we're just going to return. We're just going to return 1 here, okay? This is the actual data that you want. It's completely stupid, but I don't want to spend time on creating this. We're just going to say that user data is 1, all right? So now we get then user data, and it's then get decode user data, because we know we have the response, so we can then say the response response is here, all right? And then basically from there you can return this data as well, right? So we can return this one data, and we can get rid of user data here as well, and here can just basically return nil 2, and we can remove that. So this is a way of being able to write the functions within inside of another function, and basically you're cleaning up the actual business logic, and the business logic is here, okay? This is actually you doing all of the requests, and you're saying, okay, first of all I need to get the URL for it. I've got the URL, then I need to make the request, and so on. And this is just all of the implementations of your business logic here. So you can look at this individually, and you can then analyze this individually. Of course, it would be a lot better to extract this elsewhere and to put this in some form of struct or some form of class or elsewhere in another service or something, but that's not what this video is about. It's about nested functions, so we actually have to show nested functions at work, and this is how you can do it. Now, we haven't covered closures yet, all right, and but the nested functions typically are also closures because they are within inside of this one code block, all right? This code block here from this one function is nested inside of this code block up here. So this means that we could give some data here, right? This closure, this function body could access this one variable, and so could this one access this one variable because it's inside of its parent scope. Okay, so this is the benefit of using nested functions, because it can use its parent scope here as well, and so we could put this could be like version, for example, right? This could be version here and like the API version. Okay, so we could say like here, I don't know, then version and so on. And so this is a way that you could, whoops. This is a way that you could use this, because this one version might come down to decode user data, it might come down to make request, and so on. You might need a different data model to decode it based upon the version of the request that you are making. So this is the advantages of using nested functions. I would do it completely different. Okay, but if you need to do it like this, if you have to put everything inside of one function, and that's what your task was, then this is how I would advise you to do it, is to then make the actual business logic, the actual doing stuff of your one function as declarative as possible, and try and extract all of the implementation into individual functions that you can document where they are as pure as possible. Pure, we talked about pure functions in another video, is that when you give the same input, you always get the same output for that one input, all right? Which means that you know that the business logic here is you can always debug it really, really easily, because you know all of the functions are pure anyway. And as you go through the different checks that you're doing here, like check the response code is not equal to 200, you should be able to debug this really quite easily using unit test, etc., etc. And because this one function you would never use this, but because this one function is actually not making any request, it's just returning a tuple, it should be really easy to test anyway. Okay, but this is showing you nested functions, and it's going to become really apparent when we start talking about closures and also capturing values in the next video. All right, so I made this because in order to move on to closures, we have to talk about capturing values, which we talked about just roughly here. And yeah, so with that said, I hope that you've got something out this one video. I hope you've learned something. It's another look into functions once again. It's a highlight into closures. These are closures, all right, but they're just functions. We haven't used like anonymous functions and so on, but they are closures because they are within inside of another function, okay? So it's just another type. Anyway, with that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all of the other social media things that you can do. And if you do have any questions, comments, feedback, concerns, or anything like that about my instructional techniques or this content and so on, then please let's start a conversation in the comment section down below. I answer every single message, and I will always take on your critiques, yeah, very objectively to try and change my the way I do the videos. But I'm hoping that I'm covering the Swift programming language in as much detail as possible in the right order that I believe will be best for you. So if I've spoke too long about something in some area, it's probably because I think it's really important. You might not understand why it's important right now, but that's why you need to keep going through it. And I promise you, my videos in the future will save you a lot of time, because I've spent that lot of time doing these things and learning these things. So please just trust me on some areas and listen to the videos. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, which is capturing values, which is then the 59th video. This is the 58th, so it's all good fun. Ciao ciao, goodbye.